Yeah, let's do it. Okay, take a deep breath. Let's go. Hey, guys.
Hi.
We're going to wait until people kind of trickle in, but we can kind of slowly start some introductions, and you guys can always say hi and post some comments and questions on the sidebar, and we'll get through to the questions at the end. You guys maybe know me. My name is Joe. I'm a co-founder of Motion Nutrition, and I'm really pleased today to be with Danielle Adams Norenberg.
Hi.
Who is a performance psychologist and working with elite athletes in different sports, currently with canoe slalomists.
Yep.
And Danielle was also my performance psychologist when I was swimming and when I was training leading up to the Commonwealth Games. And so we were just chatting about that and you know, the kind of tools that I learned back then, and that hopefully we can share with you guys, and you guys will be able to apply them to your everyday life.
As I said, I'm super impressed that you have remembered some of those tools from such a long time ago. I can't believe it. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's one tool in particular which we'll share with you guys that I remember like exactly. Pretty close, right?
Yeah.
And I find it very useful. So I think we can start there. So the biggest thing that I remember when I was training and learning how to manage my mental performance and my focus was dealing with externalities. And I remember it pretty well, but you can probably explain it better about there's some circles of focus on yourself and externalities and how to manage that.
So in essence, it was a combination of teaching you to control the controllables, but also teaching you to manage your attention so that you were focusing on the right thing at the right time. You did the 50 breaststroke, so there was a race plan, but it was pretty repetitive. And you did so many hours of training, you kind of habitualized your ability to deliver that performance. And what we wanted to do is to make sure that when the performance really counted, that you were able to focus on what you needed to focus on. But we also wanted to use like the training sessions and everyday life to train your ability to manage your mind. So I introduced this series of like circles, and it started with like a bullseye in the middle. Number one, be in the present moment, in the here and the now. And that was you, like you're honestly not necessarily that aware of what's going on when you're in that present moment, but you're just embracing everything and delivering habitually, I would say. And then there were a series of circles that came outside of that, 2 being your attention being directed to direct distractions, which you were really good at remembering earlier. 3 being making comparisons. So it's really easy for our minds to be distracted, especially when you're doing something that you really, really care about. This part of your brain that is really helpful to survival, called your amygdala, is really challenged when emotions become relevant. And of course, that's important when you're doing something that you care about. And that's why our brains can't really focus on the here and the now and the present moment for any given period of time. Like I gave you the example.
Emotions get in the way.
Emotions get in the way. They kind of trump logic, and we can't control it. I gave you the example earlier. If I tell you to not think about your favorite flavor ice cream, what comes to your head?
Favorite ice cream, it's got to be vanilla.
It's very hard to stop that thought from coming. So we embrace it and we notice it. We accept the thought's gone and we bring it back to the present moment. So we've talked about 1 being in the here and the now, 2 being direct distractions, anything within your vicinity. It might be the temperature of the environment. It might be your competitors. The 3rd level being making comparisons. So is and should be comparisons.
And what's that guy doing? His dive is different.
Or actually, I don't feel the same as I did yesterday. Well, of course you don't feel the same as you did yesterday. It's a different day. And you're already away from being in the present moment. Then you can start to think about success and failure. The next level is the consequences of success and failure. And that final level being, what am I doing here? I'm so far away from my race plan and executing all those things that I've trained so hard to deliver habitually. It's out. It's just completely taken my brain away from where I need to be. So we taught you this scale so that you could notice where you were.
Yeah.
I use a lot with the athletes this really simple strategy of be aware, accept that your mind's been distracted, and reset by bringing it back to the present moment.
Yeah.
So aware, accept, reset, and use those scale to notice where your mind went. And you said that was quite helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I don't remember all of that wording, but the main thing that I remember is actually like once you're aware, the acceptance and the resetting, kind of that happens quite easily.
Yeah.
Once you're aware of it.
Cool.
So I wouldn't have remembered those words and those processes exactly, but I remember thinking, okay, now I'm aware of things going on around me. That's fine.
Yeah.
I can come back to like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, and now it's the same with my work. If I look at what maybe other companies are doing, it's okay as long as I'm sort of aware of what they do, that what I'm doing. I'm comparing. So that means I can come back and focus on what I'm doing myself.
Absolutely.
So it helped for the swimming, but really it'll help with whatever you guys do in everyday life.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So
good memory.
Thanks. Okay, so it was a big hit. So if we're talking about performance, well, for me it was for swimming, but in any kind of sport, I think we can bring that equally to performance in the moment, whatever it is that we do, or whatever it is that people are doing. And you talk of something called acceptance commitment therapy.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that before.
It's a type of therapy. It's starting to be used more mainstream now. It's more of an evolution from what's commonly referred to as cognitive behavioral therapy, which is utilized quite frequently in the NHS. Acceptance commitment therapy is an evolution of that, and it lends itself really nicely to performance sport. Not everything that I do is around acceptance commitment therapy, but it's relevant to it in some way, shape or form. This notion of being aware of your emotions and noticing the thoughts that you're having so that you can then escort your mind back to the present moment, it is related to acceptance commitment therapy too. But that also brings in what are your values, what's important to you, and using those to guide you. I also remember talking to you about what was important to you about swimming and why you wanted to achieve the things that you wanted to achieve.
And I don't think that was a very easy question for me to answer.
No, I think we spent a fair amount of time like talking through that. We went on a few walks and talks. I do that now, by the way. Nice.
I do that with my colleagues when it's like a difficult conversation and like, let's just walk and talk.
And I think as a psychologist, it's important that I choose different environments to do different things or discuss different topics. Something like the circles that we talked about is a tool and a strategy for you to use. However, for me to like draw out what your higher purpose is and what your values are is more of a conversation that then stays with you and you can access it because you now have conscious knowledge of it through the conversation that we had. So
is there anything in particular that you would ask? I guess this is more like you need to spend time discussing it, but is there like one question or one point that you would go to try and find that?
Some of the things are more about what do you enjoy about what you've chosen to put your time and effort into. What do you enjoy about that thing that you really care most about? How have you found yourself here doing this? What led you to this place? Also, what do you see yourself achieving? I think we shouldn't be afraid to acknowledge that there might be an outcome goal that we want to achieve, because that will spark the fire within. And also link that to the purpose in and around that we might want to achieve.
So you can get the combination of both. And I guess all of that brings a sense of motivation. And people use the word motivation a lot, especially when we're talking about exercise and fitness and so on. But in particular, when people are not in performance sport, I think motivation is like quite a transient feeling. So, you might wake up one morning and you're feeling super pumped and you want to go crush a gym session, or you might be about to leave work and watch some crazy motivational video, and then you're super pumped to go do a really big workout. But all those things kind of fade. I think they only last a certain amount of time. So you mentioned a sense of personal meaning, and also, like, I guess we get goal setting and intentions are part of it, but actually figuring out why.
And talking about it, understanding what it is that is driving you to commit all your time, not all your time, but a significant amount of your time and effort into working towards something. With elite athletes, it's quite often representing their country, potentially going to the Olympic Games. And that's absolutely like something that is just not a guarantee. So understanding why they want to go on this journey is important to them, so they can tap into it on a day-to-day basis. You will have thoughts when you wake up in the morning sometimes that say, oh, I don't know if I'm really up for it today.
For sure.
And learning to work with that narrative that is actually just a story, knowing what your intentions are as a person and how you're going to enhance your experience of the world that you're living in and the life that you have, through understanding what your values are, what is important to you, is something that you can choose to set yourself every day. It's something as simple as writing down what your intention for the day is, that will then like almost service the higher purpose or the goal that you want to achieve. And maybe sharing that with someone that you trust and or respect. And so that you're saying it out loud, you're committing to something, and you've also got, therefore, some support with you and someone that can help you hold yourself accountable to that intention.
Both. It helps with your own, like, keeping yourself, on the line, I guess, but also just sharing it, right? I read this crazy statistic that I read recently, where now it was in the US, but I think it's similar here. Since the 50s or 60s, they've been asking one question in the US, like every decade. And I think the question is, how many confidence do you have? And in the 50s, the national average in the US was just over 3.
Really?
And today, there are more answers that are 0 than any other number.
Oh my gosh.
Which is crazy. So
I think that's a really important statistic when we talk about like mental health and well-being, especially when you're striving to achieve something pretty big. Like sharing your thoughts and feelings with the people around you is really important.
And it's tricky. I think it's tricky because we're all so busy all the time, and it can be quite hard to actually remember to take time out and reconnect with the people around you.
It's really important to do.
And I think that brings us nicely to that sense of making the most of every single day and really being in the present moment every day. I don't know if there's specific tips or ways that we can kind of remind ourselves, because it's so easy to be just always distracted and always
rushing off to the next thing.
Exactly.
We live in a very fast-paced world now. Elite sport is a fast-paced world as well, and there's lots to be learned for everyday life, from how to cope with the fast-paced life that we now live in, especially in elite sport. I think similarly related to like acceptance commitment therapy, being in the present moment, is this notion of mindfulness and the intention to embrace the present moment, but notice that your mind and your emotions will take you away from it from time to time. I was listening to a podcast, Andy Puddicombe, who you might have heard of. He runs the Headspace app, which is probably one of the most utilized modern day methods of mindfulness practice. And he talks about sort of putting some time aside every day to engage in mindfulness meditation, to train your brain to be more ready to engage in the present moment. We also do a lot of repetitive tasks that cause our brain to move away, and before we know it, we're thinking about tomorrow, we're thinking about the next day, what we're going to have for dinner, maybe even the conversations that we're going to have, we're planning for things, and he suggests that you find a reason to to engage in the present moment? Why is it important for you to embrace what's around you in that moment? Find some time to do it every single day if you can. If you can't, that's okay too. Try not to judge yourself
don't
for
be too
it.
harsh on yourself. Sure.
But what I really love is like these really small practical activities that you can do that help train your mind to engage in the present moment.
Okay.
Something as simple as brushing your teeth,
right?
Which we all do,
right.
hopefully at least twice a day, but maybe even more. Really easy to switch off and drift off when you're brushing your teeth. But that can be a mindfulness task for you to engage in.
Yeah. So
notice your mind wandering.
You can latch on to daily tasks like that.
Yeah, totally. You can latch on to brushing your teeth. You can have a mindful coffee. You can have a mindful shower. Notice your mind wandering and gradually escort your mind back to the task that you're doing. How often have you thought about the taste of the toothpaste in your mouth, or the bristles of the toothbrush on your teeth, the sensations that you're experiencing? And it's something that we do with the athletes as well, try and help them engage in the present moment by doing something as simple as a body scan. To notice their feelings and their sensations.
Body scan being, if you don't know, one of the very early tools that you learn using Headspace.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the name of the guy again?
Andy Puddicombe.
Andy Puddicombe.
Yes.
Okay, so you can check that out in the podcast.
Yeah.
I think for me, the time that I have every day, because I don't always have time to do 20 minutes of meditation, but I do normally always cycle to work. And that's 30 minutes. And so I get 30 minutes in and then 30 minutes back home where I see a lot of people with earphones in. And for me, that's time where, like, first of all, I think that's kind of dangerous in London. But even if I was cycling somewhere else, somewhere very rural, I would probably not use earphones anyway. And just, you're forced to be on your own for that section of time.
And you make me remember when I was doing my training in mindfulness, the instructor was talking about a 10-minute journey that he takes every day from his house to the tube station. And he's done it for perhaps 10 years. He always tried to notice 10 new things.
Wow, that's very difficult.
On the way. However, it brings you into like the world around you and like notice it and embrace it. And by having that intention to engage in the present moment, you're potentially allowing yourself to like embrace every day for what it can bring. Yeah,
and another kind of silly thing that I used to do, in the sense that doesn't exactly encourage being offline, but one year, I think it was 2017, I decided to post one picture to Instagram every day, and that just forced me to like look around a lot. And it seems silly that using social media would be my tool to get time to focus, but actually it just forced me to do it.
I've done something similar actually. Did something very similar. Tried to notice the small things. Again, like using that notion of like going to very similar places on quite a routine basis leads you to switch off sometimes and get lost in those thoughts, especially if people are commuting in the tube every day. And there's just so much going on, isn't there, all the time? Do something different. So you mentioned one other thing which I didn't have any idea about, and that is positive psychology. It sounds great, but what is it? Okay. The reason why it's relevant for me in my role is because of the tiny margins that differentiate between success and not getting a spot on the Olympic team or not winning a gold medal, which is often what people are striving to achieve. And so we're looking at notions from positive psychology to help people embrace their uniqueness and the strengths that they have within to optimize those strengths, because that could be the difference. That could be the thing that makes the difference in high level competition. Positive psychology we believe that everyone has the capacity and the tools from within to achieve what it is that they want to achieve. So you're searching for the strengths and drawing out the strengths. In every success or every failure that anyone has experienced, there's always clues on how to improve and grow. and seek more fulfillment moving forward. So we're looking at it from a very positive perspective. What are your strengths, and how can we optimize those strengths to make you even better?
Okay, so I'm trying to think. When I was swimming, I'm trying to like isolate one strength. So I'm trying to figure out like what would be an example of somebody's strength.
Well, my colleague at the English Institute of Sport, Kate Ludlam, she's recently done a PhD on super strengths. And she, as part of that project, she put together a strengths interview. And it's a series of 10 questions. They're very similar, but they're about drawing out all of the strengths that have made a performance or make you good at what you do.
Right.
Everyone will have a series of strengths, right, and we just don't use
really,
them
or don't realize them.
No, we like focus so much on improving on our weaknesses that we totally forget about the strengths and the uniqueness that each individual have that make them special and make performance possible or enjoyment even more achievable. So we'd ask things like, tell me about your greatest performance. What have you been most proud of? What do you enjoy about training? What was it that set you apart from the rest of your training partners when you were growing up? What could be the thing that makes the difference between you and the next person? What would it take for you to be a world champion? And go through a series of questions. And I love this task, doing it with athletes, interviewing them, and we've got a deck of post-it notes and we're just like getting all the key words, and by the time we've got a wall full of all these like positive words that someone has identified that are relevant to them. And it can be really uncomfortable to do for some people that have never thought about it before. But it's so powerful once you've got all these positive words. It's like, wow, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
I think it's really cool that this is happening in sport, but everybody could benefit from this.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially in work scenarios where there might be a big team of people, and there's always going to be people that are kind of like straggling or feeling a little bit left behind, usually just because they're not extroverts. And so then their weaknesses tend to be highlighted more than their strengths. And so actually writing them down would be such a good way to emphasize them.
Even if someone was to like sit down, it's hard to do on your own. Like even if you just have 1 hour with someone who would help you draw out those strengths that you have, so that you know what's going to lead you back to where you need to get to if you do have one of those moments where you're like, what's gone wrong here, or how am I going to be better? That would be a really cool thing for people out there to do,
of course,
with your friends or your family.
You got to find somebody that you can open up to like that.
That would be really cool.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about basically being busy all the time, and this is something that is really important for me and for a lot of what we do at Motion, is helping people manage better the craziness of modern life. So I wonder if you have any sort of tips on escaping the buzz, getting a little bit of time to yourself, or a little bit of like really quality rest, and not lead to burnout.
Okay, so there are two ways of going about this, I think, and one is ensuring that you have balance. We spoke about that before we went live. There's likely that you're going to have one or two big things in your life that you're truly passionate about and you're working towards achieving. And I'd really encourage that, you ensure that you've got other things going on in your world as well. No matter what it is that provides you with balance and perspective, so that your achievement in one area of your life doesn't end up being the absolute definition of you as a person. So making sure that there's lots more going on. That said, in research, to help prevent burnout just by having balance and perspective. Another way is to look at your day and prioritize and periodize. That's what we do with the athletes. We look at the season, we look at the 4 years of an Olympic cycle, we look at how much training time or when are the priority times that performance needs to be there. what training do we need, and also where is the downtime happening? When is the space and the flexibility to go and do those activities that help switch the brain off and give you a different stimulation. And we do that even for a period at the Olympic Games, for example. Look at that 10-day period and say, when do you need to perform? When is there training? But also, when is there time for downtime?
Yeah.
And that could be anything from Xbox or and chatting with friends, but something that gives you a slightly different stimulation.
Yeah, and again, I think it's exactly the same with everyday, like regular work life, because I see a lot of people who, if they have one big thing coming up, maybe like a big presentation or a big pitch, they'll be stressing about it from the moment that they learn about it, rather than stressing about it maybe just on the day.
I think it's where it's really important to work backwards. Like, what is it that you want to achieve on that day? How do you want to achieve it? When are the important times to work on the skills to achieve it? And what space have you got as well, almost at the same level, to relax? Growth in our muscles happens when we're resting, right? We go through that adaptation phase when we're resting. We do the hard work in the gym so that our muscles can get stronger when we're resting. We need to recognize that for our brains as well.
Any tips for helping people switch off at night and sleep? Because that's such a big thing.
I think sleep hygiene, there's loads of resources about sleep hygiene as well to look up, but ensuring that you're turning off all your like phones and using digital anything like that, just a period of time before you're trying to get to some sleep. Only use your bedroom for sleeping, and have a sleep routine as often as you can. Like, start to wind down maybe an hour and a half before you want to sleep. That's when you put down your phone, put down the electronic devices, and go for a nice sleep routine. You might find a bit of mindfulness is helpful at that point too. And learning your sleep patterns, like embrace them, figure out how much sleep you need and do what you can to get there. I think sleep hygiene is really important. Definitely.
Okay, so you guys can send over any questions now before we sign off. I'm hoping that it's been working okay. I hope, Christina, you were able to follow along. If you guys haven't tried any of our products, I was asking specifically about sleep and mental energy because we have 2 nootropic products called Power Up and Unplug, and these products have been super helpful for me, super helpful for lots and lots of people. Power Up will help with mental energy during the day, so helping you manage your mental load throughout the day and stay focused and also stay in a better mood throughout the day. And then Unplug will help you with that switching off in the evening, and it can be part of a really healthy winding down routine for sleep. And you will get a free trial pack for the next 24 hours, and we'll give you the link to do that. And if you have, I need to come along here. There we go. You've got the free trial pack there. And if you've already tried it and you'd like to get friends to try it, you can also use one more thing. You can also use our new referral page where it works just like Uber. You send out your referral link and your friend gets £10 off. And then once they've used that, you also get £10 off for your next purchase.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know Pierre-Antoine was asking when we're going to be able to ship our products to the US. I would love to do that now. FDA are really tricky to work with, but we are working on it. So just bear with us there. Hi, Adam. Hi, Lawrence. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope the stream was okay, but if it wasn't, you'll be able to watch it again and listen in whenever you're ready. Thank you so much, Danielle, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. If you found this interesting, you can share the link with your friends and they can tune in at any point whenever they're ready.
Bye.
Peace. Oh, Marianne, thanks for tuning in. Glad you enjoyed it.